Good evening once again, ladies and gentlemen. Well, the semester is coming to an end, and it's our last episode for this week. This year has been quite the year for movies. There have been some outstanding features, and then there have been those that have left nothing but bad tastes in my mouth. With 2014 coming right to an end soon, I figure I present to you my top 10 films of 2014. Now, keep in mind, yes, I know that the year is technically not over, and that there are still some amazing films that have yet to come out, or that I haven't seen yet. I know that. But it's the last week of filming, so what can you do? Now for this top 10, I gotta tell you, it was really hard for me to come up with a list of films I felt deserved mentioning. I am aware that there have been some outstanding films this year that I was unable to put into this list. I do apologize. With all of that said, however, let's get right to it. My top 10 films of 2014. Number 10, Fury. There are plenty of World War II movies out there, yet this is the first one that I've seen that focuses entirely on a Sherman tank crew. Directed by David Ayer, Fury tells of a Sherman tank division making their way across Germany during the final days of World War II. They meet with heavy resistance along the way, and one of the tank's crew's new recruit has to find out the hard way about the ugliness of war. Through David Ayer's filmmaking, this movie is one of the most brutal accounts of the war. It shows its brutality through the intense battles between the Axis and the Allies, and it can get quite bloody at some instances. There are no punches being held here. Ayer shows it as it was meant to be shown. One of the things that I thought was amazing was the sound design. When I saw this in theaters, I could feel my chair shake as a tank shot at its target, as it rumbled across the fields, and as bullets whizzed on by. I also love how much this movie went for authenticity of its setting and props, especially the fact that they got an actual running German Tiger tank for this picture. That is amazing. Now, I put it here pretty low on this list because of the pacing of the story and the characterization. There are some pretty obvious cliches in this movie that I could see coming pretty quickly, making the movie lose some of that historical authenticity. With the characterization, the actors actually do a great job here, but their characters are such that I couldn't quite relate to them or feel that they had any depth. The only member of the tank crew I felt had the most characterization was Norman Machine Ellison, played by Logan Lerman. He starts out as a fresh recruit with no idea or no interest about the horrors of war. As the movie progresses, however, he begins to transform by the chaos around him, thus giving him a character arc as well as someone to identify with. Still, this is an amazing film, especially if you're a history buff such as myself. You should definitely not miss this. Number 9, John Wick. You know, I thought 2014 was going to be a tough year for Keanu Reeves. I mean, we all know what a masterpiece 47 Ronin was, so I wasn't sure if he could make a comeback. And then this gem appears right out of the blue. Basically, John Wick is a retired hitman who recently lost his wife and now has a canine companion. Things change, however, once some thugs of the Russian mafia come into his home, steal his car, and murder his dog. Thus, John Wick snaps back into action and goes on a one-man killing spree against those who wronged him. This is one of the most fluid action films that I've seen all year. The fighting scenes are amazing to look at, and quite creative in some instances. I mean, John Wick here is an expert marksman, getting headshot after headshot. Even when he's injured, nothing can stop him. And oh, that supporting cast. The guys that they got for this are perfect for this type of movie. John Wick here has got some amazing connections, whether it's cleanup from David Patrick Kelly, cars from John Leguizamo, exclusive hotel benefits courtesy of Ian McShane, and even sniper coverage by his own Willem Dafoe. Now, say what you will about Keanu Reeves' acting in his movies, he is downright intimidating in this picture. He's got that cold stare that strikes fear into his enemies, and he manages to keep a calm demeanor when he's letting hell loose. At one point, John Wick mentions that people keep asking him if he's back, and he responds, "Yeah, I'm thinking I'm back." I couldn't agree with you more, Keanu. It's good to have you back. Hopefully we'll be seeing more from you with your action epics if you keep continuing to make them. And oh, and by the way, characters played by Alfie Allen, when are you going to learn that if you mess with someone who has the potential to murder you, that you're going to have a bad time? Number 8, 22 Jump Street. When 21 Jump Street first came out, I gotta be honest, before I saw it, I thought it was gonna blow. It just looked like another mediocre comedy. Of course, I was dead wrong after watching it. So when 22 Jump Street was announced, I got excited as hell. Excuse me. Now, when most comedy movies, they usually come across as subpar when it comes to the sequels. Not the case with 22 Jump Street. It's just as funny as the first one, and even better in some instances. Now, I've already talked about this movie and how amazing it is in one of my previous reviews. Great setups, hilarious jokes, and of course, great characterization from our two main leads. The directors Phil Lord and Chris Miller have still got it. Here's hoping to 23 Jump Street. Number 7, Edge of Tomorrow. Boy, was I caught off guard with this one. I honestly did not know what to make of this movie after watching the trailer. Another sci-fi movie with Tom Cruise in it? You know, with something as disappointing as last year's Oblivion, I kind of expected for this movie to be the same, mediocre. Thank God I was completely wrong. Edge of Tomorrow is perhaps one of the greatest sci-fi movies I've seen in a while. Based on the Japanese novel, All You Need Is Kill, the Earth has come under attack by tentacle-like aliens whose hive mind has the ability to reset the day, thus allowing for the aliens to have an advantage over Earth's defenders. Major William Cage, played by Tom Cruise, finds himself shanghaied into the action and has no idea what to do in battle. It's only by luck that an alpha alien spills its blood on him, giving him the power to reset the day when he dies. With the aid of Emily Blunt's Rita Full Metal Bitch Frataski, Cage will have to die over and over again so that he could find a strategy to rid of the alien infestation once and for all. The main thing that I love about this movie is its premise. The idea of having someone die over and over again just to get a little further each time, that's pretty much the dilemma of any gamer having a difficult time getting past certain sections of their games. The movie presents this time reset system as such that every reset has a new twist and perspective, making things feel fresh even though you've seen them many times already. With every death, Cage just gets better and better. And that's the other thing. Most of Cruise's action movie characters are such that he's confident and always knows what to do. Not so much here. He has to grow in experience over time in order to be the badass we all know him to be. And Emily Blunt as Rita. I never thought of her as being a legit action movie star. Her role as the Full Metal Bitch has shown me otherwise. With the action in this movie, it's amazing. Most of the soldiers fight in these mechanized power suits, and their battles are reminiscent of the D-Day landings of Normandy. In fact, that's exactly what they're doing here. This movie right here has surprised me greatly. Everything feels fresh, and it's amazing to watch. Hopefully Cruise can keep up this trend when it comes to sci-fi. Number 6, How to Train Your Dragon 2. Okay, let's be honest. Who doesn't love How to Train Your Dragon? It's one of the greatest animated movies out there. Now, regarding the sequel, I felt a bit hesitant at first given the fact that it was indeed a sequel. I mean, how can you top the first movie? It's amazing. Well, DreamWorks found a way, and it is glorious. Picking up 5 years after the first movie, Hiccup and Toothless go out exploring the world for new lands to discover. However, they come across a group of bandits who want to capture dragons for their own personal gains. Not only that, Hiccup also has the chance encounter with his long-lost mother. Thus, it's up to Hiccup and the rest of the village to band up and take on these invaders to protect themselves and their dragon companions. This right here is one of the most gorgeous animated films that I've seen. What really makes it stand out is the 3D. Now, I know a lot of movies will use 3D just for the sake of it, but this movie utilizes it so that it actually adds depth. The flying scenes, for instance, are breathtaking with the 3D. Also, the scope and scale of this movie is just phenomenal. I mean, it feels like you're taking place in this environment and with everything happening around it. I would have loved to watch this in an IMAX screen. Another thing that makes this movie pristine is the character relationships. They all feel genuine here, and I really felt for these characters despite the fact that they were animated. Scenes such as Hiccup getting separated from Toothless, reuniting with his mother, or dealing with the death of his father. It really hits you right here in the feels. This is one of the most amazing sequels that I've ever seen. It has all the wonderful qualities of the first movie, and then some. Number 5, Gone Girl. Again, another movie in which the trailer did not really sell me. I mean, the trailer didn't look bad, but it didn't make the movie look spectacular. Still, I went to go see this partly because I love David Fincher's work, and that it was also convenient for me that night to pick up my midnight release of Smash Bros. Right afterwards. And that game is great. Don't let other people tell you otherwise. Anyways, back to the movie. After watching this movie, I thought to myself, by God, I did not expect to see that. This movie is awesome! Based on the novel with the same name, Nick Dunn, played by Ben Affleck, finds one day that his wife, Amy, played by Rosamund Pike, has gone missing. The whole town pitches in to try and find her, yet the circumstances of her disappearance are really suspicious, and Nick is one of the prime suspects of her disappearance and possible murder. But did he really do it? And holy crap, is this movie good. I mean, the acting, the atmosphere, the amazing score by Trent Reznor, the disturbing twists and turns. I mean, this right here is another gem for David Fincher. My particular praise has to go to Rosamund Pike's portrayal as Amy. Now, I remember seeing her in comedies such as The World's End, and I thought she carried herself quite well. Here, though, good God, she is prime example of the femme fatale. She gives a whole different meaning to crazy, and I see some possible Oscar gold in the future. Also, this is one of the few movies in which I found Tyler Perry to be tolerable. How does that happen? More of that, please! The story of this film is one of the most gripping and tense ones that you'll see. I mean, the twists that they show are indeed quite shocking, especially with what happens to Neil Patrick Harris. Ugh. Now, whether you read the book or watch this movie, you gotta get into this. Number 4, Guardians of the Galaxy. You know, there were so many good Marvel movies this year that I had a lot of trouble trying to figure out which one was really the best this year. Ultimately, I decided to go with this one. Now again, I've already talked about this movie in one of my more recent reviews, but if you've seen it, at least I hope you did, then you'll know how much I think that this movie is just, well, amazing. A great ensemble cast, exhilarating action, beautiful effects and designs, and some hilarious laugh-out-loud humor. Now, a lot of the other Marvel movies had these qualities as well, but what makes this one stand out? For me, it's the soundtrack. My God, do I love it. It's got amazing tunes, and it does play into the film as one of its plot devices. You gotta get the soundtrack if you haven't already, and you need to see this movie if you haven't. Number 3, the Lego Movie. Hands down, best animated movie of 2014. What's awesome about this movie? Everything. It's got awesome characters that are very memorable and have their own distinct personalities. My personal favorite being Benny, aka 1980-something space guy. It's got awesome settings and animation that are extremely creative and a marvel to look at. Even though this film is in CGI, it looks like a Lego stop-motion film. Everything here has detail. It looks like someone got all of their Lego sets and just designed one of the most amazing universes put to film. It's got awesome humor, whether it be verbals, visuals, slapstick, absurd, whatever. It's constantly happening throughout the movie, and they kept me laughing a good number of times throughout. It's got an awesome twist with one of the most profound messages put to an animated film, where the idea is that when it comes to life, you don't necessarily have to follow the instructions that's handed to you. You can take your own path in life and make something great out of it. For a movie that probably should have been mediocre to begin with, given its massive product plug-in, I'm still in a bit of disbelief that this movie turned out as great as it did. Then again, however, it's directed by Phil Lord and Chris Miller. Need I say more? They took my childhood and they turned it into something that gave me one of the warmest hugs ever. I mean, I honestly don't know what else to say about this movie except spaceship. Number 2, The Grand Budapest Hotel. Wes Anderson is really one of those national treasures that I adore so much. His movies have that distinct style in which even if you don't know his name, you know it's a Wes Anderson movie, and Grand Budapest Hotel is no different. The movie starts out with the owner of the Grand Budapest Hotel having dinner with a writer, and he tells a story of why he keeps the hotel running even though it's failing. What occurs from then on is a movie full of amazing cinematography, absurd and off-the-wall humor, an amazing ensemble cast of characters, and a story that's full of suspense and action, as well as a story that's poignant and heartfelt. I absolutely adore this movie. What Wes Anderson has done here is incredible. He's got this great cast in which no matter how big or small the role is, they're all amazing and memorable. There is no wasted talent here. The way that the film is shot, everything that's put on camera feels vibrant and full of life, even in settings such as a prison. What I also like here is that they will sometimes use shots in which miniatures are used, and they're very pleasant to look at. Now, regarding its humor, It's just as absurd as Wes Anderson's other movies. There are a few cruder moments in this movie, however, such as Ralph Fiennes' character's obsession with elderly women. Trust me, you'll have to watch it and see, just to see what I'm talking about. Otherwise, however, it's all still very funny, even if it's not particularly laugh-out-loud funny. It also has its share of heartfelt and sometimes tragic moments. I felt a whole bunch of emotions watching this, and you know what? That's okay. For me, I would go as far as to say that this is my favorite Wes Anderson film. It really is a gem that I think we should all treasure for years to come. And finally, number 1, Nightcrawler. Where do I start? This movie right here, I mean, my God. Jake Gyllenhaal plays a sociopath named Louis Bloom, in which he gets involved in the activity known as nightcrawling. With a news camera, Louis goes out into the streets of LA during the night to try and film scenes of accidents, crime, or other tragic events that news companies will pay big money for to get on their network. As he gets deeper into this activity, he becomes more ambitious, and he begins to manipulate the people and surroundings around him for that one big story that will make him a household name. I mean, talk about exhilarating. It really is that good, people. This movie takes a subject that I believe has a profound impact on our society. And that's the dark side of how the media portrays events and what they do to obtain them. Now, we've all seen news stories, but how much of what's shown is there for the sake of journalism or for the sake of selling a gripping story? The only other movie that I can think of that tackles this sort of subject matter is Billy Wilder's Ace in the Hole. Nightcrawler, however, takes that concept and goes even darker with it. What really sold this movie for me was Gyllenhaal himself. This is perhaps one of his most outstanding roles that I've ever seen. And I know others have made this comparison, but he has definitely challenged some Patrick Bateman through his performance. Gyllenhaal has definitely lost some weight here to get these gaunt-looking features, but looks aren't everything. His character and his performance is just mesmerizing. He is a man in which you have no idea just what's going on through his head. He can also be quite manipulative, bending everyone around him to give in to his demands and do his bidding. He is also a man that you do not want to cross or frustrate. Otherwise, you're going to have a bad time. Gyllenhaal had better at least get an Oscar nomination for Best Actor next February, because he really deserves it. And yeah, given all the movies that I've seen this year so far, I declare Nightcrawler as my top movie of 2014. Now, with all that completed, I have to delve into some housekeeping matters. I mentioned that this is the final episode of the semester. I should be more specific. This is my last episode as I'm graduating. My time here has been brief, and this semester flew by extremely quick. But let me tell you, doing this has been one of the most fantastic experiences that I have done here at this school. Doing these reviews has given me one of the greatest joys in life. But of course, I could not do it alone. I mean, I really couldn't. There are many that I need to thank. First, I want to thank the previous host, Mr. Alex Dodson, for asking me to take over for him when he left. What he did for this show was incredible, and I felt it an honor to keep FTC going when he left. To my crew, first I want to thank my teleprompter aide, Kaylin. I gotta tell you, she comes in here every week, and sometimes technology likes to screw around with her, but she always pulls through and has performed admirably with this show. Next up, my cameraman, David. He's the man who makes sure that the magic is captured right here on the camera that I speak into. And he's always there to make sure that my mic works properly by checking that it works, as well as him and Kaylin asking me what I had for breakfast. How nice of them. They have been a wonderful crew to work with, and I could have not asked for more. To my editors, they have done an outstanding job in making sure that this show looks great. And they're the ones that always make sure that these shows come out in a quick manner. To the Mason Cable Network, thank you for letting me be part of the team, if only for a short while. I will miss you all very much. Finally, to all of you viewers, without you, there would be no FTC. You guys have been very supportive in watching these episodes, as well as sharing them across different modes of media. It really means a lot. Now, with me leaving, what's next for FTC? Well, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to introduce you to a man whom I think will do a spectacular job with this show next semester. His name is Roger Dean, and he's already a well-established film critic with his own movie blog. Check him out at rogersrundown.blogs.com. It's quite fascinating. and I hope you all welcome and support him just as you had done with me. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I shall miss you all greatly. Should you ever need to look for me, you'll always be sure to find me at one of the places that I love most, the movies. Until then, so long, farewell, au revoir, auf Wiedersehen, thank you.